What's up guys, Justin Greenwald here, welcome to 65 Drums. This is the place to keep on top of all things Edrum related, so consider subscribing if you haven't yet. Today I want to talk about something I've been thinking about recently. There are a lot of drummers out there, probably thousands and thousands of them, that go about their entire drumming lives never actually playing with actual musicians. They spend maybe 15, 20 minutes a day in their bedroom or their music basement, wherever their drum set is. They'll plug their phone into their drum set and they'll play along the songs off of YouTube or off their phone, whatever. And they never actually end up playing with real musicians. Okay, so what actually happens when you sit down and you start playing with other musicians? First off, it's really inspiring because we actually play off of the other instruments, especially like bass. You find this out really quickly when you start playing with a band or just jamming out with a bass player. I remember when I first started drumming, I based a lot of my drumming off of my dad's guitar strumming patterns. He was a very, very percussive player. He actually broke strings all the time, actually bowed in the body of his guitar and had to get that fixed. Had a lot of fun playing with him. I've actually got a couple of videos very early on the channel. If you want to go check those out, I'll link them down below. You actually get inspired a lot when you play with other musicians because we're all like influencing each other. Another thing that happens is that you learn really quickly that some of the weird, crazy beats that you think make you a legend, you find out that they don't actually work in real life. I remember one time I was developing this super sick beat, and I ended up playing it with a band and they were like lost. They had no idea what the heck I was thinking. They couldn't follow it. It was a mess. And you only learn this sort of thing when you actually play with real people. Another thing you learn very quickly is that there's a whole language of music you didn't know existed when you're just playing by yourself in your music basement all the time. You learn how to follow the body language of the other people in your band, especially if you play for a church where it's not always just you do this, this, and this, and the song is over. Sometimes it's a little more organic. There's build-ups, and then the music drops out and stuff. You got to follow the body language of the keyboard player or the guitar player. So there's a whole language of musicians that you don't even know about when you never actually play with real musicians. How can you actually find musicians to play with, though, if you don't have a family, that there's a lot of musicians in your family, or maybe none of your friends in your friend circle, maybe none of them are musicians? How do you actually start breaking into this thing and actually find people to play with? There's actually a couple of really simple things you can do if you want to get into this sort of thing. The first is, oh man, there are tons of bugs out here. The first is Craigslist, believe it or not. There are tons of bands that are either already formed or they want to form, and they're in desperate need of a drummer. All you got to do is go look at the ads for Craigslist in whatever city you live in, and you'll find a few bands that actually need you. Now, not all of them will be a good fit. I remember seeing an ad once for a jazz band. They needed a drummer. I'm not a jazz drummer. That would not have been a good fit for me. Or maybe a really heavy metal band. Maybe you're not into metal. So obviously not all of them will be a good fit, and you'd have to audition and all that. But it's worth looking into. And even if you don't want to join a band, just try to become friends with musicians. One thing you'll learn really quickly, it seems like all musicians know each other. Have you ever heard that on Facebook, we're all 6 or 8 connections away from every other person on Facebook, all 2 billion of us? It's like that with musicians. Every musician knows someone who knows someone who knows someone. So when you become friends with 5 or 10 musicians, you automatically are somehow connected to a circle of 50 musicians. Maybe if you go to a certain bar that has a lot of little bands that come through, just meet up with some people in that band after their gig, try to become friends with them, strike up a conversation. Just try to become friends with other musicians. You don't necessarily have to join a band, but become friends with people so you can do jam sessions. It will actually make you a better drummer. Not everything you're playing actually works in the real world. So that's why playing with real people actually makes you a better drummer. You play something that not only the other musicians can get behind, but something the audience can get behind. The audience likes super simple stuff that they can feel, they can feel the beat of the music as the song is going forward. And you don't necessarily learn stuff like that. There's a ton of little things that you don't know about unless you're playing with real people. Also, for those of you that are a part of a church, Churches are great places to get started in the music as well. You actually get to play with a ton of other musicians if it's a larger church because you're probably on rotation. Maybe you're only one of 3 different drummers. You're always playing with a new keyboard player, a new bass drummer, and it just helps you quickly transition and learn the language of each of those mini bands inside of that church. Because one thing you'll realize is that not all guitar players play the same. Not all keyboard players have the same style, and you have to play beats that will work with that particular musician. Anyway, that's my quick sales pitch. I realize not everyone wants to take drums super seriously. You just want to get a drum set and play, once a week or something. I get that. It's just been something I've been thinking about recently, and I realize a lot of drummers go through their entire drumming lives never actually playing with real people. Anyway, I hope you guys are having an awesome day. It's like 75 degrees here in Ohio with a ton of bugs. And I will see you guys in a few.